we are. So,
kind of nervous.
so thank you again for taking part in my project series. This is part 9, so you're the 9th person who's done this series with me. So basically, as I told you, this series is basically a way for me to get various perspectives of spirituality from different people in regards to their backgrounds and how spirituality has impacted them, throughout their lives up to this point now. So the first question that I usually ask my participants is, can you go back into your childhood and talk about your religious and or spiritual experiences during that time period?
Yeah, probably too well. Because it's so vivid. Yeah, so I guess I grew up in a very, very religious space. Either we were like, my parents were separated. Mom was really into Catholicism. My dad's side was really into church planning, and I really don't even know the actual denomination they were in. I just know we were always at church 24/7. I mean, I was probably at church like Monday to Monday or Sunday to Sunday. Yeah. Was in church a lot. So grew up in a super religious household. Definitely shaped my perspective to come on to like later years in my life on what religion means to me versus spirituality. But to go back to my childhood, grew up in a very religious household. Probably around the time that I got to college is when I started to venture out and kind of start like exploring and seeing like what is my religion actually about? What are other people's religions about? Because I always had this like fascination to like sit with other people, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know, I always loved hanging out with like my Muslim friends and my Hindu friends and my Jewish friends. And so if I didn't make it clear, like I grew up in a Christian household.
Yeah.
And then so when I got to college, I was able to like fully like explore like other people's faiths and got to study some too. I went to Meredith. You went to Meredith too, yeah? Yeah, okay. And so study that, got into that a little bit. And then I guess the big kind of boom in my religious spiritual journey was the moment I started to separate the two, which happened like 2019, so fairly recent. But definitely like my childhood and growing up in such like a religious household plays a big role in that. But yeah, and if I ramble, definitely let me know, because I tend to like forget the question, which is not a very like mindful practice, but sorry.
That's okay. So I guess another question I would have is, could you go a little deeper into, how you mentioned the separation between religion and spirituality? Like, what exactly was that context for you?
Yeah. So in 2019, I was going through it, girl. I mean, I was really going through it. In a vulnerable state, and like, I mean, the world was just all upside down for me, and I was discovering myself. I feel like I was going through some things, and I ended up going to Hawaii. That's where half of my family's from Hawaii. So I ended up like taking a journey with my grandma and going back to her home island, and spent time there in Hawaii. And when I got there, was definitely not on any, like, I wasn't looking to take a spiritual journey. I wasn't looking to have these spiritual awakenings. I wasn't looking for anything. Honestly, was looking for like not everything but that. Like I was in a place of like, not like, I always believed in God and I always believed in the presence of God, but I just wasn't looking to like nourish or foster that at that point in my life. And so definitely wasn't looking to have any like big spiritual awakenings, but I did. And I guess this is how God works. He or she, they're just like showing up when they want to show up.
Exactly.
So I went to Hawaii with my grandma, like I said, and there was this prophecy thing. Like we stumbled upon this church that was doing like, they had just been speaking prophecies or something. And I was super skeptical at first. I was like, I don't know, like you don't know me, like I'm not. I'll hear you out.
I'm the exact same way.
I don't know. But I heard him out. Again, I was really angry, I was vulnerable, I was sad, so I wasn't expecting much, but I heard him out, and it was like the words that he said was so spot on. Like I was like, what? How does he know? Like, how does he know? And honestly, that prophecy would speak to me every day from that day since. And so when I got back home from Hawaii, I was in a different state. I was like, okay, I'm geared up for something. I don't know what it is, but I'm geared up for something. And I actually stumbled upon a church. It was like a church plant. They were like church planners. They would come from the other side of the world, and they had come to the United States. And I sat with them for a while and was really a part of the church. And I think at that moment, my relationship with God was like fully fostered, and you know, like I was able to like push my relationship with God to where it needed to be. But there was still like this like I don't know in me that was like, I didn't love the do's and don'ts of religion. Like my whole life I was told what I can and can't do, who I can and can't sit with, you know, as a Christian.
Yeah.
What my family and the people around me would tell me. And there were all these rules and regulations to religion and that I did not like. And so when I got to this church, those rules, regulations, do's and don'ts, and you can't, or you go to hell, like those things still lived there. But I was so in love with God, and like just like this awness of God, and like how he or she, whatever you flow with, was just so consumed in my everyday life that I wasn't even thinking about the do's and don'ts of religion. But I do remember sitting down and just praying with God. And like, to me, prayer it can look like me sitting right here and just now and being like, God, like, what's going on? Like, I'm having a really hard day. You know, I don't feel like I need to have this big ceremonial experience. You know, it could be like walking outside,
Yeah.
like so I remember having a deep moment with God and just saying like, I don't like sitting in a space where I'm being told what I can and can't do, or like that I have to shut certain people out because they look a certain way, you know, like not look, but like their posture might be a little different. And I was like, and I'm struggling with that, you know? And I genuinely believe God like was speaking to me and was like, it's you and me, like our relationship is first, you know? And so that was the moment I started like separating like religion and spirituality, and meaning that my spirituality is my relationship with God, and it's like awesome. We kick it every day, you know what I'm saying? Like I wake up and I'm so excited to talk to God and like him or her in my everyday decisions and my walk. And then there's the spirituality aspect, I mean the religious aspect, which isn't wrong. I think the religion aspect is so great because it builds community, and you know, like there's so many beautiful things about religion, but I did have to make that separation so that I could have a one-on-one with God without there being this like anger almost inside of me because of the religious aspect. So I think after I made those differentiations, it was like, all right, God, I got you. And then hopefully maybe I will find a community, you know, in the future. I do hope that. But yeah, sorry, I was remembering.
No, that's great. And it's great that you brought up like the community piece. Because I know when it comes to like the spiritual awakening process, I know for me personally, it was kind of like I felt like I was in isolation. So it was kind of hard for me to like really reach out to people. But it is very important to like have like a community or that support system that's there to like really help you stay grounded in your journey. But also, you know, fostering that individual relationship with God as well. That's also very important. So it's kind of a balance.
Definitely. Yeah, community, it's important, right? Like there's a lot of things that would just be really hard to do on your spiritual journey if you didn't have, a bro or a sis to be able to lean on. So yeah, community is definitely so important.
So another question that I tend to ask my participants thus far is about this concept of energy, and how, energy is very important to the way we see ourselves and how we interact with other people. So I kind of want to know like what your take is on it.
You will probably teach me so much because I just don't really know much about it. I know I'm always like, I need positive energy in my life. What that actually scientifically or spiritually means, I don't know. But yeah. I don't know if I could speak much on that one.
So for instance, we're like having conversations, or when you're with people, you're giving off energy because you're interacting with people and then they're giving you energy. And then it's like a whole introvert extrovert thing. Introverts tending, their energy tends to go down faster because they're interacting with a lot of people, and then extroverts, we tend to get their energy from that interaction. So I think the concept of energy is really just a basic understanding of like the human experience in the way that we interact with each other and in a way that we see ourselves. So like if you're giving off like good energy to someone else, then they can receive it really well. Or, vice versa, if that energy is not inherently good, then, they may not feel entirely comfortable. So that's what I meant when it comes to energy. And it's a very scientific and spiritual thing.
Yeah. I love that. I feel like my empathy radar is extremely high, and that like as soon as I meet someone, I almost carry whatever they're carrying with me, like at that exact moment. And I wonder if that would affect my energies. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If I'm like always, if I'm taking on what they're bringing in, am I even giving off? Right. Like, am I even giving off like my most authentic energies if I'm always taking in?
Yeah. And I feel no matter what, you still are giving off some energy, especially when you're interacting with a person. But when it comes to like being an empath, it's kind of hard to decipher, whether this is someone else's energy or if it's your own. I mean, it can, like, I'm an empath myself, so I find it very difficult to be in environments where it's very crowded environments and lots of people, because that's lots of energy.
Right.
But, like smaller, more intimate crowds I can deal with. I've gotten much better at that, but it's like the much bigger, like public spaces that can be really hard to navigate. So when I'm out in public, I always make it a point to stay near those that I know and that I'm closest to.
Yeah.
And then that, that kind of makes me feel better. Or I kind of like visualize some kind of like aura or like shield of protection around me. And then, that helps too.
I love that. I literally just got chills because I was trying to explain to a friend that I'm an extrovert introvert. Like I love people so much. It's ridiculous. But I also get seriously drained because I want to like give every single person a part of me when I'm like in their space, or like I want to receive. And that can be so draining when there's a lot of people. So I'm with you. I like small groups so I can be one-on-one and I can, give and take equally and be super like mindful of what they're talking about rather than it being more people and I have to do that with every single person because it's like physical.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, okay, I get you now.
And like when I went to Meredith, like the reason I chose Meredith is because like the small campus and the fact that I would be able to interact with my professors one-on-one, versus going to a bigger university and then, you know, one, it's already hard to navigate the campus. And then two, it can already be overwhelming, you know, being around thousands of other students. So that was like my process when choosing Meredith. And I'm glad I made that decision.
Yeah. And if you don't mind me asking, you don't have to tell me if you don't want. What year were you? What year?
I graduated in 2019. I graduated 2 years early. So technically I was supposed to graduate this year.
Okay, girl, see you.
Yeah. Didn't stay long, but I did enjoy it.
Yeah, great school. And I totally agree with the one-on-one experience that Meredith gave. It game changer.
Yeah. Really helped me a lot. So another question that I have, I understand that you're very artistic and you do music and other artistic forms, I assume. So I think a question for me is, how do you think your artistic side ties into like your spirituality?
Yeah. So I was singing for a while, went by the name Loku. I know, I mean, my name's Lo, but when I was singing, I was going by Loku. And was getting really into it, but I was also putting out just very like dark music. Like the message was what I was feeling pretty much my whole life, and it was just a state of like depression and weakness, and that was the music I was putting out. And there was a point in my spiritual kind of shift where like I feel like I really became connected with God, that I really felt him or her, whatever you do, speak to me and say like, put this one down. And like, I'm not going to take it from you. Like, I'm not taking music. Like, I gave this to you for a reason, but put this down for right now. And then we'll revisit it when I tell you it's time. And so far, I don't believe I've gotten the like, okay to go forth with it, which makes sense because I believe that there's my gift of music, was meant to uplift and bring light to people's life. And you know, mental health is a really big thing and it should be spoken on, and I love that artists, and whether music or physical art or whatever your craft is, I love that people embrace that in their art. But for me, I was using it as a channel to like keep that darkness with me. And so when I was speaking to God, I think he was saying, or she was saying, you know, let it go for right now. Because when you come back, I think I'm supposed to be really like empowering light into people. So I have not yet been able to use it in a spiritual sense that I want to, but I know that it will be spiritually guided, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think the thing that you said, which I really loved, is that your gift is still going to be with you no matter what. But, you know, there's a time and a place for everything, right? And that includes executing your gifts. So it's like God's telling you, okay, let's take a break from now and let's focus on other things. And then when the time is right, you can come back with a different message and a different artistic process in mind.
Yeah.
I'm not a singer. I mean, I do sing, but I haven't like recorded any music and whatnot. I've played instruments and I've danced and I do photography now. That's kind of like the gift that God gave me, was photography, which I never thought would have happened, but you know, I've been doing it for the past 4 years now. And I think one thing that I really find unique about this spiritual journey is that for whatever reason, like something artistic is involved. And I will go out on a limb and say that art really connects us, you know, to like our inner being, our inner selves, our inner consciousness. And in a way it connects us to God, you know. And so I always find it really incredible when I like interviewed, just about everyone that I've interviewed thus far has some kind of artistic background, which is very interesting to me. And I personally love it because I know on my spiritual awakening journey, doing artistic things and like having like a creative outlet was a way for me to like, come up from that very depressing and like isolated period that I was going through. And it really like made me become more social, made me more open, and like really live the way that God really intended me to, with like love and like being in community and like fellowshipping with people. So yeah, I really love it.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And I mean, you said something about people, how it's so awesome that people are using art as like that usually connects to like some spirituality. You said that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, and I might be going off here, but I feel like because like when you're in your craft, whatever it may be, like photography, music, painting, like whatever it may be, like you almost to do it at your however well you do it, but to be able to do it, you have to like let down all these barriers and walls and like to like almost sit into that creative imagination type state. And so I wonder if we have these spiritual awakenings with art because we are able to let down just like the everyday walls that we have, and like these invisible walls that we have up. Yeah, I don't know, just a thought, but
yeah. And one thing I noticed is that a lot of the most well-known artists, like they have like this very special gift of like taking like painful issues or painful things they've been through in their life and like put it into like a beautiful song or in a painting or maybe even in a dance. And that can be a very spiritual experience because you're really digging deep within yourself, and you're bringing out like these very painful experiences but turning it into something beautiful.
yeah.
So that's why I really find like the connection between art and spirituality. I can't really like pinpoint what that connection is, but it's something that's like very unique.
I think you're onto something, Kiana. There's something there.
So I think this kind of leads forward to my next question. Like, when or what are some moments that make you feel most connected to God or deepens your relationship with God?
Yeah, that's a good one. So I don't sing and put out music. That's not what I've been doing. But it has been my gateway to connecting with God. Worship has been a big thing in my life. Sorry, I'm like about to cry just even thinking about it because I just had like some like amazing experiences with God during worship. So if I cry, I'm so sorry.
Well, it's okay.
That one is probably my biggest one. There's moments when I'll go out on a walk or like I'll go to like look at a really pretty like body of water, like a hike, and I'm just like, oh, I'm just in awe, and I feel that connection with God. But I'd say like the main one is probably worship. We like think deep in worship. So yeah, what about you?
For me, being in nature, I love being in nature. That's why I'm like so happy that the weather is like warming up outside, because it allows for me to be out more, and I get to connect with like the plants and the trees, and just going on a walk. And being a photographer, I love taking pictures, but sometimes it's just best to not like take pictures and just really like enjoy the moment. And I love being creative, just about anything. I love painting and dancing. I played the violin. I saved up money to buy a violin so I could start back playing again, because that's how much I missed it. And I think doing anything creative, that is kind of like how I deeply connect with God. And these days, being that I am very introverted, but these days I've been really like pushing myself to be more social and like interact with more people. So I started going to a new church recently. I'm more of a churchgoer. I'm not really religious. I consider myself more spiritual, but I still go to church because, you know, you still get that deep grounding, that spiritual connection, you know, with worship and, you know, being around like-minded people who are driven by faith. So that's been really helpful for me, especially during like this pandemic and, you know, a lot of uncertainty. It's been a really great experience being around people who really just want to grow in faith and be stronger in their belief in God. And it kind of motivates me and challenges me to do the same thing. So another thing that really connects me is like reading the Bible. And admittedly, while I was at Meredith, I had a really big disillusionment with, you know, the Bible, religion, or even spirituality. Like I was just like done with like everything. So it was kind of hard for me to like really pick up the Bible and like read it. But now I'm reading it from a completely different lens now. I'm reading it from more with a sense of gratitude and not like, you know, anger or like resentment or whatnot. So it's a lot of things that connect me to God, but those are the main things. I find myself doing those things a lot. So I usually point to those things when I'm asked what connects me most to God.
I love that. I love that. Another one I'd add are dreams. I don't know if you're big on dreams.
I am big with dreams. I have vivid dreams all the time.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I literally will wake up every morning and just want to tell someone about my dreams because they're so vivid. I don't know if you're the same. But I do feel like there's definitely some dreams where it's like, Logan, my real name is Logan, by the way. But there's some dreams I wake up and I'm like, Logan, you were on some crazy mess in that dream. Like it's like talking monkeys or something. But then there's the other dreams where I genuinely feel like God is like sending me a message or putting something on my conscience that I didn't actually know was there in my everyday life, that when I'm in like deep sleep, it's like, hey. So yeah, I'd say dreams is another one aside from worship.
Yeah. So another question I have is, who are some people or maybe even like certain things have inspired you on your spiritual journey thus far?
My grandma is just this walking light. Oh my goodness. I want everyone that I meet to get the chance to meet her because she is just amazing. But growing up, she was very religious. She is very religious. But she really like puts emphasis on the fact that it's about your relationship with God. And I took a lot for granted growing up, like what she was saying. I was like, oh, she's just speaking old people stuff. But now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, she was speaking wisdom. Like, and it wasn't no like crazy stuff. She was speaking wisdom. So I appreciate it a lot more now. But she has been such like this intricate part in my current walk with God and just my spiritual walk and awakenings. She's just been such a guide in helping me see through things because, you know, like we were talking about community, like sometimes like when you go on these spiritual walks, sometimes you do kind of need a community to foster things and like help you kind of see things clearly, because I think there are some wild, like if you knew there's some wild things that could happen on your spiritual journey that maybe you're not prepared for. And so I definitely lean on my grandma in that sense. Yeah.
I think the same thing. My grandmother passed away in December 2018, but she was a very huge influence on my spiritual journey. Growing up, I also grew up in a Christian household, and I would go to church with her all the time. And the thing was, I got baptized like a year or two before she passed, and she was so happy. She was over the moon that I got baptized. And in hindsight, I'm actually glad that she was there to witness it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I didn't know that 2 years after that she would passed away. But just like seeing like how proud she was when I was getting baptized. Granted, I was scared to death because, you're being pushed on the water.
Yeah.
But I was happy that she was happy that I was getting baptized. And, she was bragging to her friends and, other relatives how I was like really growing in my faith. And I decided to take that big step to get baptized. She was able to witness certain milestones of mine before she passed. Like I graduated high school.
Yeah.
And, but I went to early college, so I also got my associate's degree as well. And she was able to witness that. Unfortunately, she passed away just a few short months before I graduated from Meredith. But I know that she was very proud of me for even getting it accepted because she bragged to everybody about it.
Love grandma.
Yeah, it was at a church service one day, and I found out I got accepted. So I had like told like certain other people that at the church, but she told everyone there before I even said anything. I was like, okay, grandma.
I love that. And Kiana, I'd even say that I bet that she's still with you in everyday things now, and even the big moments. So yeah, she saw you graduate from Meredith. Yeah.
Yeah, I know she did. So what else would I ask you? So I guess another question that I would ask you, just out of curiosity, are you into astrology or do you follow it? Like, how do you feel about astrology?
Well, I know I'm a Virgo. That's about all I know. It's not something that I'm like think that it's not true or anything. It's not even like that. I don't know much about it. Of course, all the things that I read about my sign, I'm like, oh yeah, that's me. But with everything, I'm always like, there's truths in all things, pretty much. So yeah, I only know I'm a Virgo. I don't know much about like. There's some people that are like their moon or sun or fire or something. Maybe I'm off, but
Yeah, for me, I'm a Pisces. So everybody knows I'm a Pisces. I know my moon and my rising. My moon is Capricorn and my rising is also Pisces. So I'm mostly Pisces. That's why I'll just say that. And I think the reason I asked that is because up until this point, most of the people I've interviewed, they're like really into astrology.
Oh, cool.
Like I have one of my closest friends, like she's really deep into it to the point where she kind of uses like the natal chart to, look into like other people and like see how she can interact with other people or like she'll do natal charts of people around her. Like she did a natal chart reading on me once. That's how I kind of know my moon and my rising and all that good stuff. And I think my kind of experience with astrology is basically knowing, the planets, how they aligned, and even like reading like little descriptions about my sign on Instagram. That's pretty much it. But I know people, they go like very deep into it. Like they use it to like predict like social events, world events, and just the whole 9 yards. And I don't really have that kind of capacity to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it may be a great tool to know if there's like some crazy apocalypse gonna happen. I'd like to use that to know.
Yeah.
I have to get your maybe you can connect me with your friend and like text something. I'd love to learn more because I just really don't know much about it. To say it. Yeah.
I'm learning bits and pieces. Like I did a thorough like reading of my natal report. And there was a lot of things I actually resonated with. There are some things I was like, I don't think I'm too sure about it. But overall, there is some very, unique things that I can like take and see how I can apply it to my own life.
Yeah.
So I don't write it off completely.
Yeah, definitely. And to that point of applying it to your own life, like I bet, I don't know much about it, but I bet if you knew it well and you studied it, you as in me or whoever, it can maybe help interact with other people. Like if I know why someone might be flowing the way that they're flowing during a certain time of the year, I'm guessing this is how it works, then that might help me like kind of know how to interact with them. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very unique to me. That's what like kind of like draws me into it. So that's why I've like been really looking into my own chart more, just so I can see if I can like find some unique things. But for the most part, it kind of touches on things that I already know about myself. Like I'm very artistic. I have very vivid dreams. I daydream a lot, and among other things. But it is really something unique to look into.
Do you like write down your daydreams or like do anything with those dreams like that you have or the visions you have?
I only write down my dreams or really pay attention to them if I repeatedly have them.
Okay, cool.
If it's something that I repeatedly like dream about at night, then of course I'm gonna be like, okay, this is probably like a sign of things to come.
Yeah.
This is probably a sign of something that I probably need to stay away from, So those are the dreams that I really pay attention to. But there have been plenty of nights where I've had dreams and about like the craziest stuff, and then they just go away.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm always jealous of people that can daydream because I'm like, I know how good actual dreaming is. I wonder what it's like to I don't think I've ever really daydreamed, which is so that's why I asked. Do you write them down? Because I kind of want to know what some of your daydreams are.
I probably would have to do that. I know for me, like my entire life, I've always been like a very vivid, very lucid dreamer and a very vivid daydreamer. So it was just like second nature to me. So I didn't really like bother to like really like analyze my dreams. But now that you say it, I probably will start doing that, especially if something recurring keeps coming up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely those reoccurring ones, especially for dreams.
So I guess my final like kind of wrap up question would be, could you like give a message of encouragement or advice to those who are listening, especially like during these very uncertain times? I know it can be really hard to really put our best foot forward. So if you can give a very positive message to cap off our interview, that would be great.
Yeah, I love that. A message. I guess I'd say with everything happening, nothing is what's the words I'm looking for? Nothing is ever like sure, like we don't know like what's gonna happen today or tomorrow. So it sounds cliche to live your life every day like it's your last, but like I'd even take a step further and say like live your day like it's a movie, like and you're the freaking main star of that movie. And then in speaking in a spiritual sense, I don't know, I feel it on my heart right now to say this, that if there's things that you want answers to, if there's things that you question, it's okay to ask. It's okay to ask those questions, whether it be to God or whether it is that you are going off and searching for that on your own. God's going to guide you to get those answers anyway, but it's okay to ask. I spent a whole life of people telling me you can't ask that, or you can't wonder that, or you can't question that. And you can ask, you can question, it's okay. And yeah, live life blissfully. And yeah, that's my my I'm really bad at those things.
I am too, but ironically, I tend to ask other people to do it.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's a very great message to cap off our interview. It's actually nice to like actually chat with you, even if it's virtually, but actually like have a more in-depth chat with you. Because I know we've met, previously, but we haven't really talked.
I know. We should. I don't know what your comfort levels are with COVID, but we could we can do virtual and like do virtual coffees, or we can just go and grab a normal coffee. But yeah, I'd love to. There's so many questions that stemmed from this like interview thing that I'd love to like dive off onto with you. So
Yeah.
definitely we should connect.
Absolutely, we should definitely do that. So let's plan on it.
Well, thanks so much for having me and letting me be a part of this. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much, but I really appreciate you, and I think other people probably appreciate hearing these different perspectives. So thanks for giving us a space to be able to do that.
Absolutely. Thank you for your willingness to take part. I really mean that. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, do I?
Yeah, I'll click out.
Okay. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Kiana.